Hello everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to another video over here on That's Comical, and if you're watching and it happens to be a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, it feels very strange actually sitting down and discussing this specific movie because of the fact that this movie has actually been around for almost a year now, and I finally sat down and watched it. And now I'm here to talk about it, and that, of course, is the final installment in the Zack Snyder DCEU, Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, starring, once again, Jason Momoa, Tamora Morrison, Nicole Kidman, Yaya-Abdul, Patrick Wilson, and yes, even Amber Heard. So, I know what you're thinking. The same thing that you were thinking ever since they announced that James Gunn was going to just be rebooting the whole DC franchise in the world of film and television and whatnot. What's the point of any film that comes out at this point in time? We all said that about Shazam! Fury of the Gods up until Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. So yeah, what was the point? And that's probably one of the main reasons why it took me so long to see this movie. Because I absolutely adored the first one. And even though I knew there were going to be no more DCEU films, I still had a feeling that I was going to enjoy this film. And believe it or not, it's far from perfect. It's nowhere compared to the first film. But it's fun. I had a good time with it. It had some really cool scenes, some cool special effects. Of course, Jason Momoa being Jason Momoa was always fun. Having him work off of Patrick Wilson with a really good story attached to it was also not the worst thing in the world. But this was also an opportunity to finally give Black Manta the chance to shine, because we all knew that he was going to be the main baddie at the end of that first film. So, of course, we do get that. He does his thing. It's not the most unpredictable thing in the world, but it's still a good time. I mean, that's one of the things that I will say that I like about these specific films, because they have so many great comic book elements in them. All of the DCEU films had that. Even the Suicide Squad films. There was just lots of fantasy in it and lots of fun, exciting action sequences. That's what comic book movies, to me, are all about. I mean, the history of the comic book movie is definitely a mixed bag, because when they first started coming out, even going all the way back to the Richard Donner Superman, they never were taken truly seriously because of the types of stories that they were about. But these days, comic books are a thing that are being taken very seriously, not just because of the fact that there's so many stories to tell going back almost a century at this point in time, but the fact that Christopher Nolan with his Dark Knight trilogy and Kevin Feige giving us the Infinity Saga in the MCU, there were reasons to go to these comic book films and reasons to take them seriously. Even actors got Oscar nods and even Oscar wins for portraying these characters. Let's not forget that we live in a world now where two famed actors, one who is no longer with us, got a Best Performance Oscar for portraying the Joker. And that, of course, is the late Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix. No one would have ever expected that to happen, but I personally felt that if The Lord of the Rings could win Best Picture, a comic book film can get a prestigious and acclaimed award. So, this movie definitely wouldn't get those kinds of awards, but what I did appreciate about it was that it was a fun story and it tied up everything in a nice little bow. Like, there really was no anticipation of a sequel, and it basically was the sign that the DCEU was over, especially with the small post-credits scene. It was definitely the worst way to end Zack Snyder's vision, but it basically was, I guess, a bit of a metaphor saying, yeah, we're done here. There's going to be no more DCEU films coming at this point in time. So, I definitely will say that if you never saw Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I do feel that if you do finally take the opportunity to see it, if you haven't yet, I think you'll at least have a good time with it. which is why I'm a proud owner of this film, because I'm a completionist and I have all the DCEU films and I love them all to death. So I'm just going to give Aquaman the Lost Kingdom 2.5 stars out of 4. I feel that there's not that much rewatchability, but I'm glad to have it in my collection. And that officially concludes the DCEU for me. I mean, I think it's really strange that in 2024, as we're almost wrapping up the year, how we have said goodbye to the DCEU, and we've even said goodbye to the DC Universe Film Library. That is pretty scary that these two things happened within the span of 1 year. And I am really curious to see what the future holds, especially because of the fact that we're going to be getting our very first introduction to the James Gunn universe with a animated series called Creature Commandos in less than a month. So I'm going to check it out. I will. And then, of course, we've got the next Superman film that James Gunn has a lot of hope for. I personally don't even know if I'm going to see it, but I'm curious to see what people will say about it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below and leave your thoughts on Aquaman the Lost Kingdom, and I will see you in the next one.